Welcome in the Ride the Line, the greatest podcast in sports betting entertainment. My name is Tanner Kern, certified G, bona fide stud, and you can't teach that. In this right here, this is G Money Grant Mitchell. We crushed the NBA last night. We're going to do it again tonight in Thursday Night Football, but we are going heads up today a little bit, and you can't teach that. Bada boom, man of the people in the room, welcome in to Ride the Line.
Welcome in to Ride the Line. You didn't ask me, Tanner, so I'll ask you. You riding today?
I'm riding with Baker Mayfield. That's who I'm riding with. And Coach Prime, we coming.
You know what? I can't think of two people that are more different from one another than Baker Mayfield and Coach Prime. I don't know how this is going to work out for you.
I love Baker Mayfield. Big Baker guy. I don't know if he'll be the starting quarterback for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers long term, but I love Baker. I don't know why. He's a freaking fighter. That's a guy that I want to bet on week in and week out, even though he sucks. He's got that grit.
He's a good personality for sure. He's good for the NFL, no doubt about it.
He is. He's like he was like at Oklahoma, he was kind of an a-hole a little bit, but now he's just got that quiet confidence.
It's not quiet, first of all, but it's because he's been humbled. You know, he was the number one pick, and then he got shipped off to Carolina, bounced around, took a red eye to the Rams, was playing in the game later that day. Like, he has been humbled, and I think it was definitely good for him. And, you know, to his credit, he's actually played decently well this season, even if the last couple weeks haven't been the best.
Yeah, totally agree with that. We're going to break that whole game down today. But before we get into that, make sure you like the video, you drop a comment, you subscribe to the YouTube channel. It's not rocket science. It's never been rocket science. Get it going right now. We're giving you the picks every day. All you can do is tap a button. It's not that hard, people.
It's not that hard. Let's talk about this game, Tanner. And if we're saying Baker Mayfield has been humbled, the Buffalo Bills supporters, the people in the media that prop them up, they all need to be humbled a little bit. And I don't know when it's going to come for them, because the Bills have not looked good. Coming into the year, we said, they should win the AFC East, but they're not going to dominate it. And obviously now it's in question if they're even going to win the division because of how good the Dolphins have looked, aside from a couple of games. The Bills' last 3 games, they lost 2 of them, one against the Jags, one against the Patriots. Beat the Giants, but you can argue they probably should have lost that game, or even the game should still be being played, because on the last play, there's clearly a holding call that the refs didn't call, and, we'll never get a fair result to that game. But bottom line, for a team that is always at the top of the Super Bowl odds coming into the year, Josh Allen's perennially a top MVP candidate. This team has just not lived up to expectations whatsoever. Now, they do have some injuries with Matt Milano and Tre'Davious White, and of course that does play a role, but the team should still be good. Even if it's dropped off from being elite, it should still be good. I think this is it's hard to say because they've got an MVP candidate on their team. They've won so many games recently, but this is like a 9-10 win team. They're not that special, in my opinion. And we can talk about the Bucs in a second, but I'll let you go ahead and speak on the Bills.
The Bills have, Josh Allen, I think, played better than people are giving him credit for. He's still 3rd in the league in QBR right now. He's actually 1st in real quarterback rating, according to coldhardfootballfacts.com. The biggest reason for that is he's able to use his legs and score touchdowns with his legs. Past few weeks, rushing touchdown every game. So he's doing it in multiple ways. They've also been playing from behind a good amount, or they've been playing in tight games. So they've been throwing the football pretty consistently. 265 against the Pats. He had 359 against the Jaguars. But this is a short week for them, coming off a loss. The Bills, I don't know if they can handle this adversity. That's my biggest fear. The Bucs weren't supposed to be good. They're not a good football team. They're decent for the NFC South. They could possibly win that division. But coming off a loss for the Bucs against the Falcons, versus coming off a loss for the Bills, I just don't know how you respond. This is a spot where the Bucs could come in, and it wouldn't surprise me if this is a tight game going into the 4th quarter. I'd be more surprised if the Bills just blew them off the field, because that's just not what we've seen from them this season.
So I don't think that this is a great spot for either one of these teams. And I just talked about Buffalo, so I'll talk about the Bucs here. They've scored 19 points in the last 2 weeks. That's 9.5 points per game. Baker started the season well, but he has dropped off recently. The defense is still top 10 in points allowed, but it's only 27th in passing defense, and going against a guy in Allen who you were just saying has been arguably the best quarterback from an efficiency sort of perspective in the league. That's going to be trouble. It's going to cause problems for them. The real saving grace for the Buccaneers is they have the best red zone defense in the NFL. They only give up touchdowns on 22% of their opponents' red zone entries, which again, best mark in the league. If that even drops off to, let's say, top 10, then you're going to see a lot of these performances start to dip. Now, as I'm saying that, the Bills have failed to cover in 3 straight games. They are 3-4 overall against the spread this season. The Bucs are 3-3. So not a whole lot of trends. Both teams kind of going in the opposite direction they should be. This is a tough game to call, especially at a line of -8.5 for the Bills. It's hard to be willing to lay that many points, but Tanner, I think I am going to do it in this spot. I've been on the Bills for the last few weeks. You've heard me say it numerous times on the show. The Bills are a roller coaster. They're parabolic. They're up, they're down, they're back up again. They've been down for 3 weeks, and they've got a guy in Josh Allen. They're still top 5 in the league in scoring and points allowed. So, I was talking about them not being elite, and it's because they have random disappointing games, and they will never get rid of that, but they can bounce back. And if they don't do it this week, I don't think it's ever going to come for them. And I just think it's going to happen. It's a short week for both teams. That normally favors, in my opinion, the better of the 2 teams, and the Bills are better than the Bucs. So I'll be taking the Bills, but I don't feel great about it. I do want to put that out there. Don't feel great about it.
I don't think the Bills can beat anyone by 8.5 points. The way they're playing right now, they're not going to punch it in when they get in the red. Like, that's the biggest thing. They're going to be in the red zone, but can they punch it in? We haven't seen them do it consistently this year. The Buccaneers are very good at stopping offenses in the red zone. I think this is a spot where the Bills need to win. Like, they need to win more than the Buccaneers do because they're a championship Super Bowl team, but the Buccaneers aren't going to come in here and roll over and die. I think the short week actually favors the Buccaneers because the Bills are still riding off the Sunday game. I think the Buccaneers are still riding off the Sunday game, but the amount of time to prepare is definitely different. So I just think the Buccaneers are going to come in here and play with absolutely nothing to lose. I don't know if it'll result in a win. I do think they can be within that 8.5 point margin, though.
Maybe I would be a little more receptive to that idea if they didn't lose to the Falcons when Desmond Ridder, it looked like Desmond Ridder played for the Buccaneers. He turned the ball over 3 times in scoring position, with the biggest one being the fumble into the end zone, and they still lost to the Falcons. It just leaves a very sour taste in my mouth.
And you know what? The Falcons do have a decent defense, so I don't want to cut them out from there. They're relatively strong on defense, and Baker turned the ball over too in a spot where they should have won the game. It's like Baker had 2 chances to convert there, so I think we're going to see a better game from Baker. I do like him to bounce back. I think the Bills are going to play well, but I think this could turn into just a shootout. Honestly, like, Baker still threw for 275 last week. Here's the problem with the Bucs. They'll come out and they'll try to run the football throughout the entire game, and then they'll start throwing in the third and fourth quarter, and it puts Baker in a tough spot. They got to come out and throw on first down right away. And if they do that, I think they're going to be just fine. They can't run the ball. Rachaad White he battles for 2 yards a carry with this offensive line. They just need to throw. Quick game.
Yeah, they haven't been able to run for the last few years. I don't have a play on the total. I know you mentioned it could be a shootout. Does that mean you're taking the over, or where are you going with this?
I would probably rather lean under, just because of the Bucs. I think it could quickly turn a shootout. I wouldn't play anything here, but I would rather lean under, 1, based off the splits, and then 2, based off the fact that the Buccaneers haven't scored a lot of points, and they also have a really good red zone defense. So I think there could be a decent amount of field goals in this game.
Yeah, I think I would be in that camp as well. I would lean under, but that's like 51-49%. I'm not going to be playing either one of these sides. It doesn't take much. If the Bills score early, they're going to score a lot. Like, if the Bills score 14 points in the first quarter, they might score 40 in the game, just because that's the type of team that they are. And then to the other points you made, though, the Bucs red zone defense, both teams turning the ball over, having some struggles recently. I think it's a market that it's volatile. There's a lot of logic to both sides of it, so I would be staying away from the total. But you and I are both in on some props and pretty similar picks. I'll start off with mine. I like Stephon Diggs as an anytime touchdown scorer. Diggs is on pace to have the most touchdowns in a season that he's had in his entire career. Got 6 TDs in 7 games so far this season, including 5 in his last 3 games. As I mentioned earlier, the Bucs are 27th in pass defense. I know they are top 10 in points allowed, but when you're giving up, the 5th or 6th most passing yards per game, you're asking for trouble. And I don't feel like you can get away with that with the amount of targets that Diggs gets in this offense. So Stephon Diggs, about -120, -115, depending on the sports book, is an anytime touchdown scorer. I think that's a solid play.
Give me Mike Evans for +195 anytime touchdown. He scored in 4 of 6 games this season, 3 of his past 5 games for the Bucs, coming off a big 40-yard touchdown catch last week. That's what the Buccaneers got to do. They got to open it up. They got to get him running straight down the field. That's the one way they're going to score. I think Baker is better throwing. He's good, decent throwing quick game inside. Stuff over the middle. He's not great at throwing to the edge, but he can throw the deep ball decently well, especially if Mike Evans gets a couple steps on guys. Evans is good enough to do it. He's fast enough to do it. And for +195, you really can't beat it tonight. So going to lean towards him. He has to score for the Buccaneers probably to win this game, to be competitive in this game. And if the Bills start blowing them out, the Buccaneers are going to have to throw the ball. And that's where Mike Evans comes into it.
+195 is amazing value, by the way, for this pick. Like that it should not be +195.
Especially the Bills they do rank 12th in defensive passer rating according to Cold Hard Football Facts and 21st in total team yards allowed. So there should be some opportunities there for the Buccaneers to throw the football.
So I like the Bills' #1 receiver. You like the Bucs' #1 receiver. Bottom line, we can both agree this should be a passing game.
Yeah, I think Diggs scores too. Like, I think that's a good play. I would never parlay. I don't parlay anytime touchdowns, but I think Diggs scoring is a decent bet. Diggs over his receiving yards. Like, anything Diggs is always a good bet. And then honestly, like, not that Mike Evans has been the most consistent guy, but anything Mike Evans is a decent bet. I mean, he's scored in 4 or 6 games. He's had a couple of games where he's popped off. He's gone over his receiving yard a decent amount this year, reception. So like those 2 guys, you can always lean on.
And back to a conversation we've had earlier on the show, the ridiculousness of some of these anytime TD lines. Second most likely scorer, James Cook, +120. He scored 1 rushing touchdown in 7 games. Going against the Bucs defense, that's, I think, 8th in points allowed, got one of the best run defenses in the league. Why is he +120? Again, it's just the odds makers trying to screw you there.
Well, I don't understand. Like, here's my take. If a guy is minus like Christian McCaffrey, now McCaffrey always scores, so it might not be the best idea, but like Tony Pollard, who has barely scored this season, if he's -140 or -150 or -160, there should be a plus money price on the other side that you can bet for them not to score. You know what I'm saying?
No, I agree with that 100%.
So, but I mean, that's the way it is. The system is rigged for the books to make the money, but we know that.
We do know that. And that's why, Tanner, we have this show, because we are here trying to give the people the best picks, because the people don't want the picks.
People need the picks. We haven't used that in a while.
We have not. And that's a good one. That's one that you started years ago.
That was like Jason Tatum trying to throw an alley-oop to Jaylen Brown last night. And then Jaylen Brown just totally sucks.
Yeah, Tanner's still, they won. So, I don't want to say he beat himself up, but
they blew a 12-point lead twice, and they're lucky they came back to win at the end.
My
Knicks team. Bad.
My team's still looking for the first win of the season. The Lakers, obviously, but they got the Suns tonight. That's 1 of 2 games in the association. I'm going to be watching Damian Lillard make his Bucs debut while flipping back and forth with Bills and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But that was going to do it for Ride the Line, this wonderful Thursday episode. Tanner and I pumping out the extra episodes this week. But if you guys want to show appreciation, like the video, as Tanner said, comment, let us know what your favorite picks are for Thursday Night Football. Subscribe to the channel, and we are going to be back tomorrow on Friday with our favorite betting picks for the NFL weekend.